see white lies dancing between the lines. She's an atheist. Carousels in her mind, spinning all in her eyes. She's an atheist.
Hello and welcome to the Digital Freethought Radio Hour on WOZO Radio 103.9 LPFM here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We're recording this on Sunday morning, May 8th, 2022. I'm Larry Rhodes, or Doubter 5, and as usual, we have our co-host online with us. Hello, Wombat.
Hello, I'm the Wombat.
And our guests today are Dread Pirate Higgs. Welcome.
Ahoy!
The Frozen North. The John Richards from over in England Way, and George Brown from East Tennessee. Each new guest, Digital Freethought Hour is a talk radio show about atheism, free thought, rational thought, humanism, and the sciences. And conversely, we'll also talk about religion, religious faith, gods, holy books, and superstition. And if you get the feeling that you're the only non-believer in your town, well, you're just not. In Knoxville, in the middle of the Bible Belt, we have a group of over 1,000 of us. And we'll tell you more about that group after the mid-show break. Wombat, what's our topic today?
We got a number of topics today. We're talking about the universe and karma. Do atheists threaten Christianity? And then, of course, my personal favorite, science says that atheists are more unhappy than Christians. And let's talk about the validity of those studies. But before we get into the meat and potatoes, we're going to throw it up to our own noodly priester in practice to lead us in our weekly invocation.
Our noodly lord, who art in a colander, al dente be thy noodles. Thy blood be rum, thy sauce be yum with meat, as it is with vegetables. Give us this day our garlic bread, and forgive us our cussing, as we forgive those who cuss against us. And lead us not into ketoism, but deliver us some grog. For thine are the noodles, and the sauces, and the grog, whenever and ever.
Man. What happened there?
A brain fart. I think it was karma.
Oh, speaking of karma, why don't you tell us about it?
I thought it was a fake glitch.
Yeah.
It was a glitch in the matrix.
There you go.
Yeah.
So speaking of karma, Dread, what do you mean by that? What are you talking about?
Yeah, well, I find it interesting in talking with people who don't identify either as religious or even spiritual in some cases, who still say things like, well, if it's meant to be, or, hopefully karma is going to get them for, their bad deeds and all that kind of stuff.
What goes around comes around.
What goes around comes around, exactly. And I find them, for the most part, in even SE discussions like street epistemology or Socratic examination, that people come to realize that they haven't really given that a lot of thought in many cases.
Right.
But of course, you have to think about what would have to be true about the nature of the universe for karma to exist at all.
Sure.
If there's no God, or if there's no background designer, who would be keeping a record of all this stuff, and how would it be recorded in the background? Like, would it be recorded in the cosmic background radiation somehow? But I thought it intriguing, because I've always kind of wondered, because I used to say that too. I used to believe in karma.
When you believed in karma, what specifically was it that you believed in? Was it just a vague sense of justice, or a meticulous detail of actions by every person and weighing and balancing of it, or was it something else?
Yeah, something like a weighing and balancing, that there was, a ledger, in some respects, like the more good deeds I did, hopefully it would come back on me, and I might win the lottery or something like that.
The Egyptian gods used to weigh the soul of the deceased
soul against the feather.
You guys, so we just had I don't know if it was on HBO. It was on Disney Plus. There was a show called Moon Knight. I don't know if you guys have been hearing about that, but
no.
Egyptian gods are very popular right now, at least in the zeitgeist of young adults. And one of the things that people are now being more aware of is that this is not a new concept, that gods who weigh good deeds versus bad deeds, even on literal balances, it's been a concept that has existed, I would say, back when people were worshiping animals, all the way to like these Judaic, practice beliefs. And I would say, like, because it's not novel, I think it'd be possible to actually envision that universe where you don't necessarily have, our classic gods, but perhaps this vague sense of justice in the universe that's keeping track of everyone. The only thing I don't know is what would that universe explicitly look like? Dred, do you have ideas?
Yeah, I mean, now that I'm not ensconced in that sort of belief system, I find it hard to even appreciate what was going through my head when I did believe it. And I guess it's, sort of it really comes down to magical thinking. This idea
and indoctrination.
Yeah, certainly indoctrination, because I was raised Catholic. But then I certainly, after leaving Catholicism, sort of stayed on a spiritual path. The Egyptian gods were a big thing, Hermetic magic and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, and I did that for a lot longer than it was certainly any useful purpose for, other than sort of the social group. But it's all it really does come down to magical thinking, I think, and just strange beliefs.
Alita, you have something to say?
Need to change that name. No, what gets me is that most of this karma belief is founded on something we hardly even think about it anymore as a society, and that's souls. I mean, if you don't have a soul, you're not going to be judged right or wrong or whatever in the afterlife, because there is no afterlife. And if there's no souls, how many religions would just go away if we found that we could prove that souls don't exist? And there's never been any good evidence that they do exist, any evidence at all, except for ghost stories and anecdotal evidence, that type of thing.
But couldn't karma, I mean, if karma did exist, could it not exist in the absence of a soul? Because you're getting karma is happening to you all the time.
You're talking about in this world?
Yeah, in this world. So if you do something bad, that's going to come back at you.
It begs the question: how long can you do something bad before it catches up to you? I mean, look at how long Hitler did it. You would think that if karma was real, after he killed the first couple of people, he would die.
Right.
That's what a universe with actual karma, quick karma, would look like. And he went on and we had to catch him and kill him ourselves, or at least get to that point before what he was doing stopped.
Well, here's a good question too. Like, could the Large Hadron Collider find the karma particle, the karma field in which karma manifests as,
how would we recognize it? I mean, we found the God particle, but that's only because a scientist named it that.
Right.
Not that it had anything to do with the God.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course.
John, love to get your feedback here.
Yeah, sure. Well, do you have karma chameleon? That's the karma particle. It's chameleon shaped.
I thought it was just comedians, but okay.
What I wonder is, people only seem to wish for karma when they're disgruntled, when they feel that they've had a bad deal and they're looking for some compensation in the future.
Yes.
Do they never do it the other way round? I mean, do they never think, I've done a lot of good now, let's have some bad to balance it up?
And actually I hear people say, about lottery tickets and stuff. Like, if they win a lottery ticket, like $400 on a scratch and win or something, they say, oh, well, I must have good karma, like attributing it to a magical
Or
reason,
quote,
or
I've done, I must be living right.
Right.
Yeah, John, I agree.
It's after they spent $800 to get it, right?
Yeah, John, I see your point. It's like karma exists for people to fill in the gaps of an imperfect justice system.
Yeah. And I wonder, I was going to say, I wonder what the criteria are. I mean, how do you decide whether what you've had was bad enough to deserve a bit of good? I mean, what's the measurement here?
One comment before we get to George, I just wanted to throw in, when we were talking about Hitler, karma does provide this really unusual, scary point of view where it's like, well, then the Jews must have deserved it if karma exists, because karma knows how to equitably distribute justice to everyone.
Mhm.
And that is a really scary, POV in my opinion. And then the second one is if you win the lottery, or if you do something terrible, let's say it's not something as non-offensive as winning the lottery, but like you robbed the bank and you got away with it. You can look at that karmically speaking and say, well, I deserve to have the money and get away scot-free because karma's on my side. It's like this really unusual tool to make empathy an alternative mental action when it should not have any inhibition whatsoever.
I still want to know what the metric
Yeah,
is.
well, it's exactly like the God thing. I mean, when your football team wins, you say God made my football team win. When your football team loses, you say God works in mysterious ways. It's the same with the karma.
You say, God damn it.
You don't say it's about time we had a lose now, do you?
Yeah. Alita, what do you think?
That name is Larry. I forgot to change it on my screen. Anyway, I'll change it here in a second.
I got you.
No, when somebody say they're in a fiery car accident and like 3 people die, but you didn't, they say,
right.
Well, I prayed, or I'm a good Christian, inferring that the other people had it coming. There's some built-in karma in that type of stance, as it were.
Yeah. And if anything, it's a system that makes life scarily easier for people who don't want to think about nuances or complex systems. So like if justice fails, you can think, oh, well, karmically, that murder will finally get retribution somewhere down the road. We don't have to fix this problem. Karma's got it. It's like, that's a bad, simplistic point of view. Yeah, and if there's someone who gets like their house burned down, it's like, karma will fix it. Don't worry about it. I don't have to, help this neighbor of mine or learn from their folly. It's just the universe will take care of it, and I'm good.
Yeah, and unless you go downtown and look at all the cold cases files.
Yes, exactly.
People that don't get caught.
Right. And it's just in my head, permission to not think critically what I see when I see karma. And I wish they would be recognized for that, for what it is, and more along the lines of embrace the mystery of a universe that isn't, tied together, that is very much has a lot of loose ends to it. And then realize that there's potential for, I guess, servicing accountability. Like, hey, this is somewhat of a random universe, but I don't have to treat myself or other people randomly. I can feel actualized by coming up with systems and behavior and character that make my actions representative of a good way of behaving in a chaotic universe. And if I can set up a good model that inspires other people to behave and treat other people equitably, all the better for society in a universe that doesn't necessarily have our best interests at heart. And I think that tends to be something that gives me purpose and accountability and reason to wake up and try harder the next day, even when I do fail and want to.
Personally, I believe the universe doesn't care at all.
No, the universe is trying to kill us, by the way. The sun is out there being like, why aren't you dead yet?
Yeah.
UV radiation.
And
hey,
the
John,
cold.
what's up? John, what's up? Oh, you're on mute, my buddy.
You know how in some games you have a rating against your name so that you're a triple scorer or whatever.
Sure. Uh-huh.
If there was such a thing as karma, then the universe, we'd have a little thermometer beside us, and it would go up as we got to the level of deserving karma, and then suddenly we'd get some karma and it would go back to 0.
Okay, so in a universe, so we were talking about what would the universe need to look like in order for us to believe that karma exists. I would like to see something like that, just like a little meter that's next to everyone's head that goes up or green or red, and like there's a range. There's like a little yellow bar on either side, and if it crosses that line, you're going to get some karma. But if you go back down again, it's like normal. So like everyone's trying to do their best to like push it up to green and like get good rewards. And I think that could actually curb society in a good way. Just immediate feedback on the actions that we do. That's just a literal guideline of like, this is a good thing, that's a bad thing. Do the good things. It's good for everybody. But we don't have that.
I call that a karma-ometer.
Yes,
Karmometer.
Harmometer.
Nice.
Yeah, I was
Nice.
thinking that you
Good.
know, there's probably $1 million idea right there, is coming up with a device that just reads, you know, some random backfield magnetic
Yes.
field or whatever, and people carry it along, and that's their
Yes,
Karmometer.
it's like a radiation thing, you know.
Yeah,
you go,
but-
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
once
yeah.
you're like Genghis Khan or Hitler or somebody, how high do you set that? I mean, what's your range on them?
Yeah.
So I think that is it, basically. Just make it scientific, like
Mhm.
make the measuring of karma scientific and visible to everyone. And then we believe it exists, something that's testable and recordable, and that can be measured through repeatable tests that are objective across different people. Then we have a very strict guideline on what we can do to increase our karma, what we can do to get our cosmic justice, what we can do to get our cosmic rewards. And I think if we had that, we wouldn't have a complaint that we're getting them or being punished by them, because now we have a guide of what it takes to get either or, and we'd be
Or
totally fine with that.
You can take the next step. Instead of just putting a gauge next to the person, have some kind of shock come from it. You know, a built-in
Larry going straight to the scary route
built-in
now.
retribution. You
This
know,
is why
if
we
you're
can't
the
have nice things.
aggressor, you know,
I'm also going to say this too. Hey, there might be, if we do have gauges, right? Maybe there could be like some sort of, if it was like a thing that you buy at a store and put on your shoulder or like on your neck, that'd suck. But I was preferring like someone just like something over my head, just like spiritually or heavenly.
like a health bar.
Yeah. Or just like some sort of visual indicator of like, hey, this
Yeah.
guy is doing good.
a
This guy's
halo that gets bigger and bigger and
A
pulses.
halo, yeah. Or horns.
I don't want to give Christians any head starts in saying that they're right all along. I was thinking more of like the life bar or horns. I like horns. They're cool. The cooler you are, the bigger your horns are. I love that.
Pretty-
I always say
pretty
we should have had
smart.
horns.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know
I'd be
that
like,
guy.
I'd be like a moose. Yeah.
Mm.
You know that guy who sold a load of fake mine detectors? He sold them to governments.
Mhm.
Oh,
This-
wow.
Yeah, and they bought
I
it.
forget what-
That's the killer.
It had nothing in it, you know. It was
Mhm.
just a gadget.
Black
And-
box.
Yeah, and as people went into the airport or whatever, they were tested by this gadget, which produced no results at all. But he made a fortune. Let's tell him this is his next project.
Okay.
He's in jail, of course. He's in jail now.
Mhm.
Now, I'm going to throw something out because we still have like about 8 minutes before the half. But do we not have systems like that already in place? And I'm gonna take a wild step into the beyond here, but I'm thinking like social media has sort of become sort of that litmus of good standing among people and immediate feedback from peers or even an audience in terms of whether this person is
Mm.
a person of character or not a person of character. However, the judgment system tends to be more stark. John, sounds like you have something
Yeah,
to say.
I love that idea. And it happened only a few days ago. We were in a situation, I was driving my daughter to school, and we were in a situation where there are two lanes. One turns right, and the other one turns left or goes straight on. And the right-hand one is popular, so there's a half a mile of tailback. So what people do is they steam up the left one and then try and sneak in between you so that when the lights go green, they save themselves a lot of time. We did the very thing you're thinking here. We insisted on public justice. We kept our cars so close together. This poor guy who'd steamed up on the left-hand side couldn't get in, and he had to wait there for the next red cycle to go through.
Or at least one.
That was
That's
public
instant
karma.
Yeah.
Right. Even when I was in school, we would have before social media existed. I would only allow people to cut into line if I was the last person in line because I only wanted it to affect me. But it always made me upset when people in front of me, like way in front of me, would let their friends cut in because it affected not just them, but everyone behind them.
Yes,
I'm like, what are you doing down there? I think only the person at the back has the right to do that.
Yes.
So like, I feel like we have some social mechanisms in place, maybe not as digitalized as what social media does, but that does help us remember what character looks like. And we can come up with like a social sort of like reaction to that. Dred, what do you think?
Public justice.
Public
I
justice.
think that social media, though, is often driven by kind of populism, right?
Right.
And if you it's harder to voice an unpopular opinion and be canceled for it, often quite stridently by, a group of people who are quick to be vocal and self-righteous and all the rest of it. So it's not really a good barometer for the quality of character. It's just whoever yells the loudest. And
one has to
it's not
take
a place
look
for discourse yet.
Only take a look at the number of followers Trump has, to see that there's a flaw in the system.
Mm-hmm.
Right. It's there's similar to how people will reach out to karma as a salve to a broken justice system. A lot of people reach out to loud voices that just seem confident as a salve to their own lacking self-esteem. And they grip onto, loud, powerful voices, even when they're completely objectively wrong, because in them they have recompense for their lack of value that they see in themselves. They see value in other people
it's a ready amplification of their own feelings without having to be necessarily that loud themselves.
Right. And likewise, it's hard to get an education. I'm just going to be flat out, like, working out is difficult. Working out your brain, also difficult. They both take time and effort to, like, ratchet your way up. But the thing is, muscles you can see, but smart you can't. So you always have the impression when you see a guy who's really muscular, like, oh, well, I'm not as strong as him, but I'm definitely smarter than these PhDs. I'm smarter than these professors. I'm smarter than these guys who are telling me what I should do and what I shouldn't do. I don't like that. It's like, maybe you're not, but that's not a popular opinion to, like, to expound upon. And so as a result, there's, like, this very stark anti-intellectualism, even when the matter that intellectuals are proposing are in the best interest of all of humanity. Climate change, rights, civil rights, so many different things. The list just goes on. I don't have to go over it here. But that is why I find a lot of people who are looking for a loud voice to feel self-esteem, to fill in their self-esteem for, typically go the anti-intellectual route, typically go the route that is anti-science, and, like, hold on to this more conservative ideology or one that's more closed-minded, even on the liberal side, where it's just like, I don't care about these other opinions. I don't care about other discourse. I just want to listen to this one person who's perhaps saying something that's absolutely harmful to society at large. It's very unfortunate. And I think we break out of that by just empowering people to think critically on their own and giving them the opportunity to be educated, and maybe even skewing our education practices to enable better critical thought practices. Because right now we just teach kids out of books, or like, list of rules to remember, or answers in the back of texts. Like, let's let them think about problem solving and let them go, empower them to do it on their own. John,
I thought we all imagined that we were always the smartest person in whichever room, or is it just me?
George, what do you got?
Well, I think that we are in a period now when anti-expertise is on the ascendant.
I love that.
And I see different signs of it here and there. I mean, at least in the society that I'm looking at here in the United States, I can't talk about elsewhere in the world. There do seem to be different places in the world where authoritarianism is the rule that I wasn't aware of before. I don't know about anti-expert sentiment.
Well,
what is it?
Lack of trust in institutions.
That too. Yeah, that's true. And some of it even rightly deserved, I would say. But, like, also Dunning-Kruger effect. What do you think about that, Dred? Do you think that falls into it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. No question.
What is this effect you're talking about, Kruger?
The Kruger-Dunning effect is where you believe that you are smarter than you are, essentially. That you have greater expertise in a subject, which you certainly don't.
The less you know about something, the more you think you know about it.
And the reverse is also true. There are people who are highly educated who underestimate their ability in certain subjects.
But Dunning-Kruger is a bit more than that, because it's not having the ability to understand how much you don't know.
Yes.
Right. That's it. That's it in a nutshell. And the more you get that understanding through actually understanding it, the more you realize that there's so much more to not understand.
Yes.
So It humbles you in a weird way. Sometimes, at least that's what it should.
Yeah.
And for those who don't have it, it's just a gross overestimation of what they're capable of doing.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that you can't learn it. Just be aware that
this is a good way to, I mean, in street epistemology is the calibration, is to find out to what degree a person is confident in their belief about something. And if someone's 100% or comes off as 100%, you already know that there's a bit of the Dunning-Kruger effect in there, because you know, I had someone talk about in Canada here, the Freedom Truckers thing in the anti-vax movement or anti-mandate movement. And they said, you know, I'm 100% confident that what I believe is true. I have doctors and scientists who agree. And I pointed out that a doctor and a scientist would never, well, in the majority of cases, would never say that they're 100% confident in anything. Because the nature of science and medicine and all the rest is that it's a matter of discovery, and you could be 99%, but you always reserve a level of uncertainty in order for you to change your mind when the facts change.
It's all provisional.
It's all provisional, exactly.
Man, I could talk about confidence all day. How much time do we got, Larry? Are we really at that break right now?
We're pretty much at the break.
Okay.
I guess we're. Stay tuned right here for the second half of the Digital Freethought Radio Hour. We're on WOZO Radio 103.9 LPFM, right here in Knoxville, Tennessee, and we'll be right back after this short break. Welcome back to the second half of the Digital Freethought Radio Hour. I'm Dr. Five, and we're on WOZO Radio 103.9 LPFM here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Let's take a moment to talk about the Atheist Society of Knoxville. ASK was founded in 2002, and we're in our 20th year. ASK has over 1,000 members, and we have weekly in-person meetings in Knoxville's Old City at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria. Look for us inside at the high top table or outside on the patio if the weather is nice. We're usually the loudest, happiest group there. We also have Tuesday evening Zoom meetups. If you'd like to join us, email us at askanatheist@knoxvilleatheist.org or letschatse@gmail.com. You can also find us online on Facebook, meetup.com, or at the website knoxvilleatheist.org, or you can just Google Knoxville Atheist. It's just that simple. By the way, if you don't live in Knoxville, you should still go to Meetup and do a search for an atheist group in your town. Don't find one? Start one. And Wombat, where do you want to pick up?
Yo, I want to talk about confidence real quick before we get into the next topic, because it was a really interesting tangent. In our lab, we do the statistical test to verify if a series of numbers that we get from an instrument are in control, if they're within an acceptable range of tolerance, or they're out of control. We don't just eyeball it and say, oh, these numbers look fairly similar to each other, we're good to go.
Or have faith
in it. Or have faith in it. Faith doesn't go very far, though there are religious people in our group, but they use our scientific methods when it comes to their scientific processes, and that should be telling to you. But anyway, the two tests that we do is called a t-test and a Fisher's test. And the t-test basically collates a bunch of numbers together and says, here's your score. And you can take that score and you can plug it into an A-test or a Fisher's test. And it'll basically tell you if you can be 95% confident about it or not 95% confident about it being different or an outstanding outlier in that set of numbers. But the cool thing is why do we only stick to 95% confidence? You could actually skew your Fisher scale so that you could be 99.99999% confident or even 100% confident. However, it tends to be the case that people who skew their information that way only invite more skepticism at the result. If someone's even more than 95% confident after doing an A-test, people will look at the number of tests they did. It's like, you're 100% confident that you're right, but you only did 4 tests. You should be doing thousands upon thousands. Right. No wonder your confidence is so high. You didn't do enough of a thorough study.
Yeah.
So a lot of people
hacking, right?
Yes. Yeah. So a lot of people will just be like, 95 is the highest in terms of confidence I can get, which is a fairly confident value. I could still be wrong, but there's always room for that. And so in scientific circles, 95% is typically the highest you get. So you don't really find a skilled statistician or even like a well versus scientist or a doctor who are like 100% of the time it's going to happen this way, or even like 99% of the time. It sounds great as far as like a sales pitch, but scientifically it's a number that doesn't really have value. In fact, it actually makes you more alarmed at the study that was done in order to come up with that kind of result.
Makes sense.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, everyone's cool. All right, so we're going to go into next topic. Do Christians threaten atheism? Brought to us by our own George Brown, the second and a half. George, would you mind talking to us about this topic real quick? What do you mean by do atheists threaten Christianity?
Well, that's right. You got it wrong the first time.
Yeah.
My bad.
Okay, do atheists threaten Christianity? Well, there are a number of Christians who feel that they are being persecuted, and this really puzzles me, because I come from a background of people who really have been persecuted, and I don't know what these guys are talking about, but I think that maybe they latch on to things to get outraged about, and when there is nothing to get outraged about, they manufacture something. So, do we threaten them? I don't know.
Good.
Yeah,
John.
I get where you're coming from, and it's like, because Christianity and sort of the institutionalized religiosity has been really unchallenged for so long. The increase in secularism is threatening the status quo, and I think that's, just from my perspective, is what the largesse of this whole persecution mentality is about. I could be wrong.
What do you think?
Is that me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I hope so. I hope atheism threatens Christianity. I hope it threatens Islam. I hope it threatens all of the religions. But I don't want it to threaten Christians. What they have here is a persecution complex.
Yeah.
They've taken ownership of an ideology. It's the ideology that we want to challenge, not them personally. They need to revise their attitude towards it. And what we're doing, as I see it, is teaching science and how to understand and discover reality.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
I may think the inverse is true. I would say we start off as atheists in my head, and I don't see any other reason to believe it any other way. It's Christians that threaten atheism at every turn of the corner, because everyone starts off as an atheist, are converted into Christians when they're young, before they have any developed critical thinking skills, and then they're up to them for a lot of people to work their way back to the default state of not only being back to an atheist if they can, but also developing a lack of fear of God, a lack of fear of death, critical thinking skills, things that they should have had or were able to naturally develop if they weren't indoctrinated at such a young age.
Mm-hmm.
I find that to be more tragic.
Well, I think from what I've been seeing, there, statistics pop up in my life every once in a while that say, at least here within the United States, that church membership has been dropping. And it's been dropping steadily for, at least 10, 20 years, dropping at a significant rate. Although I don't think that's the case with the fundamentalist people, with the Baptists and the Baptist spinoffs, I guess, centered around where I live here in Tennessee. So I'm a bit puzzled.
Larry, would you mind touching in?
Oh, to me, it threatens it because atheism shows that non-belief is an option. Like when I grew up, nobody I knew was a non-believer until I got to college. And once I found out that there were actual people who said, no, I don't believe it, and I have good reason to not believe it, is when I actually became a non-believer. So it threatens it in that way.
Yeah. So
I was going to say, when when the word conversion comes up, it's always converting to a religion. It's not converting to atheism, right? You can't convert to non-belief. You have to convert into a faith system. Right. And I was also thinking that, while we talk about the decrease in the number of churches, which has, the evidence is pretty clear of that. But at the same time, I think there's a consolidation of believers into larger and larger churches, so that, smaller chapels and stuff like that don't exist anymore, because as the singular voice of any religion starts to dim and decrease somewhat, they have to, it's like there's a need for them now to gather in larger and larger centers in order to make more noise and build the confidence of their beliefs amongst each other.
Sure. John.
Well, I think you're right, Ty. I think that we're all born atheists, and what's been happening is they've been threatening us with their malicious rumors of hell and afterlife pain and all that sort of nonsense.
Yeah. It's all part of it.
And in order to try to protect their mythicism, what they've done is they've accused us of threatening them. It's a reversal.
Mm-hmm.
They've demonized us as the threat. It's nonsense.
Right.
Yeah. Right. It does come down to, like, why is there that self-persecution? I feel like it's a easy thing to think of yourself as the underdog, right, in the grand scheme of things. But also, religion has never been in the interest of making room for all the other different kinds of thoughts and dogmas in the world. It's always been a practice of monopolization. Yes. And it's only now, when we have like this global society where people can internationally travel and internationally communicate at an instant, that you see religion begin to dwindle, because its interest is in not keeping all the different kinds of bifurcations alive, but rather making sure everyone sticks to a plan or some sort of single ideology, but they can't get to terms with each other because they are, in their own ranks competing against each other. But that's why you see these smaller churches like fall off to the wayside. And I think that's leading to the diminishing numbers, because people aren't subscribing to these larger store brand versions of religion. They're just like, I guess I might as well just do my own thing. It's
an irrational tribalism, because it's based on something which has no evidence to support its existence.
Right. It's a business that sells falsehood. What else can you say about it? That is, and it's the easiest commodity to give away. It costs nothing. What's up, Dred?
Well, and that's why one of the main reasons I identify as a Pastafarian. We're not a tribe. We're not rigid. We take ourselves lightly. And in terms of those unexplained aspects of reality that there is no answer for, it serves as a suitable avatar that we can sort of point to, have some fun with, and at the same time celebrate our own uniqueness and this amazing universe. So that's my defense of Pastafarianism.
Yeah, and I guess that is true. It's such a nuanced point to tie theism and religion in the same basket, but they are different things.
Yeah.
And I think in some aspects, certain religions are actually valuable and useful when you can handle them. And I think when you can handle them in a way where it doesn't harm critical thinking practices, and like you can just really appreciate your community, that's fantastic. I also find that theism is just an invitation of accepting a bad model of reality, because I have had conversations with Christians before who said, Tyrone, you don't think the truth is important because you don't believe in God. And I'm like, okay, so one, I know where this is leading up, because I've done conversations like this enough times where it's like objective truth is God. And that's why you think my truth isn't important, because you think truth is God and therefore blah, blah, blah. But in my head, I've always found objective truth to be overrated, because what's guided science is not the objective truth. It's what's useful, come up with a model for it, and understand that it's just a model of reality. It's a work of fiction that we can pull useful truths out of. And the more useful it is, the better we can apply it to come up with better, systems and better understandings of the universe. The objectivity truth of it is not important at all. It's why we have Google Maps that has a flat 2D representation of the world. I know when I tap Nashville, my thumb's not going down and pushing Nashville into the dirt. I know it's a work of fiction. It's a model that I'm working with, but it's a useful model for me to drive up to Nashville if I need to. And as long as I understand it as a work of fiction and pull the useful truths out of it, I can benefit from that. That's the concept of science. But religion is like a goat in a book, in my holy book, told me not to steal things. I'm like, it didn't literally need to be a goat telling you that for it to not be a good idea to steal things. Like, it still would be a bad idea to steal things, even if a magical goat or a magical bush or a dove on someone's shoulder or a guy who could resurrect from the dead told you not to do those things. Like, you don't need the theatrics of it. Like, there are some good morals in here that if you just appreciate it as a work of fiction, could still be true. And I feel like because you've tied it in with this God complex, this theism complex, you just invited a really bad mechanic of understanding what real is and what's not real and what's good and what's not good. Tied it unnecessarily true story or unnecessarily.
It's a barrier to discovery, right?
Right.
Because once you have the answer, you don't have to look anymore.
Right.
Exactly.
John, what's up?
Well, you're absolutely right again. Who was it said that all models are wrong, but some models are useful? And it's some very wise person. But the only
I think he was a pirate.
Yeah, probably. The only false tribal religion that I think is harmless, apart from Pastafarianism, of course, is what should we karma-ianity. Karmalism.
Karmalism.
It is.
It sounds delicious. Yeah.
I'm doing a reverse segue.
They hate the sprinkle lights, though. They hate the sprinkle lights. You have to like pick camp.
My life is caramelized.
Yeah. It's sprinkles all the way. Let's go. Dred, did you have something to add to that? Just wanted to touch base. Okay.
Yeah. Ice cream all the way down.
Ice cream all the way down. Guys, we have, speaking of science,
until we get to the turtles.
Sure. We got, the show is also about the sciences. I want to bring up, so I've had an email discussion with some people who mail into the show. I'll keep them anonymous. I get a lot of requests that people would prefer to be anonymous. That's totally fine. But the comment that was made is that US studies show that atheists are more unhappy than religious people or people who have religion in their lives. And it was sort of a follow-through comment from a previous email where we had conversations of how do atheists deal with stress and discipline. But the counter argument based on our show from last week was that, well, everything you said sounded reasonable. However, objectively speaking, US studies show that atheists are less happy. And so isn't that a compelling argument that, maybe religious people have figured something else out? And when I say religious, I literally mean theists. And I don't want to speak for the person. Anyway, Dred, saw your hand up. Did you have comments on that?
John was up first there.
Okay, John, what you got?
Thank you. Well, I was going to say, I bet I know where that survey was conducted, but then you told us it was in the US. I was going to say, I bet it wasn't conducted in Denmark, which is it's a very happy country and almost nobody believes in any God.
Yeah. And I would think also that, it's like one of my sons who believes in homeopathy and naturopathy. The placebo effect, while it might make you feel good, it doesn't really remove the underlying causes of your ills.
Okay.
It just, if you're happy with the placebo effect, well, good for you. But it still puts you out of sorts with the real world.
Larry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it has nothing to do whether it's true or not. I mean, what was I saw? So the drunk man is happier than a sober man, but it doesn't mean that that's the way you should go.
Yes, like for the rest of your life, right?
Yeah, right. Also, if one religion makes you happier than no religion, shouldn't you be on the track of which religion makes you the happiest and all switch to that?
Good.
It's not a very good argument.
Larry, you got it. That was exactly what my point was going to be. That's fantastic. I was just going to say, so what? Or as Matt Dillahunty would say, so what? Because he loves those silent H's, right?
Yeah.
What? tell me all the atheists in the world are miserable, and I'd be like, that's still not a convincing argument, you know, to be religious. Like,
Right.
it's always going to be the case that I will be convinced when there's better argumentation, or at least substantial evidence to prove that a God exists, not whether or not it's more comfortable for me to believe in that God. I don't care how happy it'll make me. I care if it's true.
Yeah, you can't just say, I'm happy, therefore God.
Yeah, exactly. And that is the sense. It's an argument from comfort, but it's basically, I'm happy. I heard statistically you aren't, therefore God. You know, the weird thing is too, not to be even more paranoid than I am. However, I am aware of the fact that there is messaging within churches to say, make your appearance look like you have your stuff together, because you don't want to give us a bad look as a community, because that's how we attract more people into our fold. And so I know, for example, Mormons have very strict dictates on how you behave in society, how you're supposed to look, dress code, matters of appearance, things that you like, music
Which
that's
causes a huge amount of stress.
Oh, definitely 24/7. But if you talk to them, they're always smiling because they have to. Muslims have the same thing too. I don't know if it's everywhere in every sect of Christianity. I mean, I've seen Presbyterians, but they seem more just like they're in an environment where like that's just the culture. But I know, for example, Jehovah's Witnesses also have very strict guidelines on how to behave and what they find acceptable.
One of us.
Right.
Yeah. So expanding
Mm-hmm.
on that idea, what we really need is a ranking system which puts religions in order of most happiness. The one at the top is going to be the most tolerant. It's going to allow most things, isn't it? And the one at the bottom, that's probably, I don't know, Jainism or something, which is fairly permissive. But the one at the bottom is obviously going to be Islam, because you can't. You're not allowed to do anything fun in Islam.
Well, you know, that's a hard point to leave on. You know, Jainists also I would say Jainism is pretty rough too for a lot of people. I would imagine it'd be pretty rough. I don't think you can eat bacon as a Jainist either, right? Like, tell me something that a Jainist can do that an Islam person couldn't. Right?
What's the religion that emanated from Iran in reaction to Islam, which sort of mashes together the best bits of all the other religions? I forget the name of it, but it's a pretty damn good religion.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I
Might be the Jains.
I can't remember it.
Isn't that Jains?
There is so if we're talking about happy, there's a religion called Last Thursdayism. If you guys aren't familiar with this, it's the idea that the universe was created last Thursday with all perceived memories just implanted into us. And so like, it really doesn't matter what's going to happen in the future, what's going to happen in the past. The universe only existed since last Thursday. So Hakuna Matata, you know, like just, hey, it doesn't matter so much in the grand scheme of things. Just have good time this week, because that's it. Hey, what's up, George? Oh, you're on mute, my friend.
He's sort of the name of the religion.
Baha'i is what you're thinking of. I think.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, George.
George remembered something that none of us could remember in this show.
Yeah.
So, like,
That's because I lived in the San Francisco Bay Area for a long time. The Baha'i people have a large presence there.
Yeah.
I just couldn't remember the name.
Yeah.
Dred, you have anything you'd like to say before you close out the show?
Yeah, I was going to say something, but I got sidetracked.
Okay, where can we find your stuff at?
Well, I am on YouTube on my channel, Mind Pirate, MINDPYRATE, and I record this live at 7 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time every Sunday morning.
Fantastic. And you
also Global Atheist News Review at 11 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. So please check it out, and if you like it, subscribe and ring the bell.
Hey, Dred, let me ask you a question. You're setting up that studio. Is that going to be for future scientific conversations that you'll have in front of the camera? What's that about?
Well, I've already said that I'll be talking about the Higgs boson on a sort of a layman level, just so that people can have a better understanding of some of these more complex scientific concepts that they haven't yet taken a deeper dive into. So I look forward to producing some content here in the very near future.
I can be found at Let's Chat on YouTube. I'm really shocked I still got that YouTube screen name, but for the most part, I'm having fun time just uploading these videos. And thank you guys so much for paying attention to the show. We have really, really long-term viewer engagement on our channels. We get about a couple hundred, but everyone watches the show for at least 40 minutes. And
wow,
that is
cool.
very unnatural as far as YouTube goes. So like, thank you guys for the long attention span. I think it's useful to produce long form content that people watch from more or less beginning to end each time. And just sort of like curb this sort of, you know, lack of attention span that we seem to be culturing on this.
They're all sleeping. They're sleeping.
Anyway, John Richards, where can we find your stuff at?
I'm at Freethought Productions YouTube channel, and as already been trailed, I do Global Atheist News Review with a couple of you reprobates later on today. I don't actually live stream it myself because I want to do some editing, but yeah, Dread, you put it out live. I think somebody else puts it out live too, which is fine. It's all about getting seen, not about purity of content or even production values. And I also do Freethought Hour. I did a lovely Freethought Hour last night with a delightful lady from South Africa, Tercia Duplessis, who is a critical thinking teacher. She's well worth watching. And of course, then there was Global Atheist News, which is the parent of the review, which is also up on my site to be seen. This will be later too.
Fantastic. Fantastic. A critical thinking teacher. That's so good.
Yeah, how can I do that?
I just want to say Happy Mother's Day. It's Mother's Day.
Yep, that's true.
Very happy Mother's Day.
And I just wanted to show off a bowl that I turned on my wood lathe. I mentioned that.
Oh, that looks great.
I've just started doing, this is maple with spalting, which is the colorations in there. And that's fungus that gets into the grain.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. So my mom is a Christian, so I can't say Happy Mother's Day because she won't watch this, but I say it to all the other atheists and pastafarian mothers out there.
Same here. My mom's Jehovah's Witness, but we still love them all the same. What can you say? And I'll call her after this show. So Larry, anything that you'd recommend that we check out? And feel free to close up.
Well, I'd say if you're a member of the clergy but have come to see that the claims of religion are just not justified, and you've lost your faith but stuck in the pulpit, as it were, check out the Clergy Project. There's help for you there. It's clergyproject.org is the website. My content can be found at digitalfreethought.com. Be sure to click on the blog button for our radio show archives, atheist songs, and many articles on the subject of atheism. My YouTube channel can be found at Doubter5 or Larry Rhodes. And my book, Atheism, What's It All About, is on Amazon. You can find this show as a podcast on Apple iTunes, Pocket Casts, Amazon, or Podcasts Anywhere. Just search for Digital Freethought Radio Hour. Thank you for joining us. Remember, if you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. And remember also that everybody is going to somebody else's hell. The time to worry about it is when they prove that heavens and hells and souls are real. Until then, don't sweat it. Enjoy your life, and we'll see you next week. Say bye, everybody.
Amen.
Bye, everybody.